What's going on, guys? Dr. Matt here, host of the Roadie Strength Podcast. We got Colby King back on again. What's going on?
Back at it again.
Back at it again. So we just had her on. We're going to release these back to back. So last week's episode, we just had her on. We talked everything nutrition, everything dietitian, and we're going to get more into it today.
Yeah, absolutely. There was just way too much content for us to put it in an hour episode.
We had to go again, part 2. So we're going to still start with a couple rapid fire questions. I switched them up a little bit, and you don't know these are off the cuff. So.
No, totally off the cuff.
So first one is going to be similar, but it's enough time has passed between these two episodes. I want to see if anything's changed. Any recent podcast that you've liked?
Ooh, I've been doing a lot of trauma work. So.
Okay, yeah.
So there's one that's really nice. It's called Trauma Rewired.
Okay.
So they talk a lot about the neural system and our response systems to when certain traumas come up, like how some people get into like a freeze state, or some people get into like that hyper mode where you feel like you have to do like everything and anything.
Yep.
So they talk a lot about like how that's related to things that happened in the past and
interesting
how it affects our lives now as adults, which is crazy. And they talk about disordered eating and body image and how it's all connected.
Interesting. The first part of what you said, like the kind of the freezing state, like not being able to do anything, I feel like that's a very easy connection to a trauma response.
Yeah.
But the opposite of what you said is like, I have to do everything.
Yep.
I would have never thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And there's like the two extremes, the freeze and the, there's another word for it. I think it's either like dorsal or vagal.
Sure.
But there's also people that live in the middle that have they almost respond the opposites at the same time.
Interesting.
So you feel like there's a bunch of stuff that you can do, but you still stay frozen. But they're both working in your head at the same time. It's opened my mind to so many different things. It's crazy.
I feel like that has happened to me before, where like you almost feel so overwhelmed that you have so much stuff to do that you're like, I'm just gonna watch TV.
Yep.
I'm just gonna give up. I'm just gonna give up.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's exactly. That's exactly.
Or I'm just gonna go to the gym.
Yep. Yeah. I tend to fall more into like the avoidance.
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming. It's too overstimulating. I'm just gonna go do something completely random that's not relevant at all.
Right. My to-do list is too long. Yeah. I'll just figure it out tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll go fold laundry.
Yes, exactly. That's like, if you walk into my house and it's extremely clean, it's like, all right, he's been putting off something. There's something he's got to be doing right now. He's not doing.
Yep. Yeah. They actually say that's one of the things that's the most helpful, though, especially when you're in that like free state, is to pick something like that that's like mindless, but you still feel productive doing it.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I like that. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Next question we got, more nutrition related. Well, they're both. That was a nutrition related answer. Well, no, the mindset piece of it, but more food related, I should say. What is your favorite on the go snack? Like if you're traveling, you're like, I need to get something, maybe from a gas station or something quick, like fast-ish food scenario.
Yeah. My first thought was like airport. Like what do I have with me?
Yep.
Any sort of trail mix.
Nice.
I love the amount of combinations, the variety, how you can get like the salty crunchy, the like pieces of chocolate, the dried fruit, like, it's nice. Cause sometimes you can just like pick out what you want.
Totally.
And leave the rest for your partner to eat.
Like, where's all the M&Ms?
This one didn't have it. I don't know.
It says M&Ms on the package. No, that was a mistake.
Wrong label.
Nice. I like that. A lot of times, I know, especially for athletes, like one of the things, at least for me anyway, I'm trying to get a lot of protein throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So traveling a lot of times can be tough. I'm like, where are my options for protein? So
just chew on some chicken.
Yeah. So I mean, trail mix is something I'll go, because you get like the nuts and with the trail mix.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll do like beef jerky too that I like.
Yep.
Anything else that you like for like this is a separate question, but protein related? Like I'm trying to get some like macros in. How can I get that traveling?
Yeah, protein's always kind of the like, I guess, star question that a lot of people ask. Like, we think that we need more protein actually than we actually need. So that's kind of one separate topic. But main tips I would say that I talk to my clients about is just consistent protein throughout the day is better than like overloading at a couple times.
Sure.
It's not that, it's kind of a common misconception that our kidneys can't handle more than like set amount of grams at a time. It's not that they can't, it's just, it's easier throughout the day, just
Sure.
like water and us being hydrated. So consistent like bits throughout the day, our body's like overall protein intake, even like a week's time. So if you have a day where you're getting 200 plus grams, the next couple days are like 151 maybe. It's overall, it's going to equal out anyways.
Totally.
But yeah, like anything, if you can tolerate dairy, anything dairy related is really nice because you're getting the calcium, the vitamin D, all of that together too. The jerky sticks are super helpful. Anything like if you're a hard-boiled egg person, other like actual like animal meats, but those are harder to kind of snack on.
Yeah.
What else? Soybeans. Anything like edamame is a nice punch of protein. We actually just made a chocolate hummus.
Okay.
It's a brand new recipe. Yep. So it's like 5 grams of protein per serving.
Wow.
And I made it literally just in the blender. You throw everything together but it's like desserty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing I was talking with my friend recently is like, because 5 grams of protein is a lot per serving.
For something that you only need like an itty bitty amount with.
Because we were talking to like, like eggs. So that I feel like there's a lot of foods out there that you think they're high in one thing, but they're not actually that high.
Yeah. And you have to have a ton of it.
Yeah. You're like, eggs are so high in protein. But if you look at it, one egg is only, I think, like 4 grams maybe.
Yeah.
So
it's like less than 6.
Yeah. So if you were to take what you just made versus an egg and you're like, what has more protein? I feel like most people be like, the egg has more protein. We're like, well, actually, no, this does.
Yeah. Just chickpeas in general are fantastic, whether it's in hummus form or I've even like air fried them before and they get nice and crunchy and you can throw them in salad and it's extra punches of protein.
Sure.
Kinda. You can just snack on them too.
Totally.
Yeah.
There was another example we were talking about, which is bananas. They're like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but they're supposed to be like a really high potassium food. But if you look at it, I think it's only, I think it would take like maybe like 4, I forget the number, like 4 bananas to get like your full potassium from that. And you're like, I guess that's not that high. And there's other foods that are much higher, in other words. Yeah, it's like interesting. I don't know why somehow the marketing team for bananas was like, we're high in potassium.
You can literally copy and paste that same polar application to any of the diet world.
We're like, wait, these don't have that much. Crazy.
No one's going to eat 4 bananas in one sitting. Like,
all right, got my potassium for the day. Let me just chug 4 bananas. Next question. Slightly less on the like super clean, healthy foods, but what's your favorite dessert? Or maybe it is clean and healthy. I don't know.
No. Dessert is an enjoyment of food. I would say 2 answers. My favorite dessert to make would be anything like cake related.
Okay.
Just because there's so many different combinations of things that you can do.
Sure.
I would say not my favorite to eat, though. I'm not like the hugest fan of like cake and cupcakes. To eat, creme brulee is one of my top rising stars of dessert. Like whenever we go out to eat, that's like one of the things that I look for. Yeah.
That's one of my wife Liz's favorites is the creme brulee. If there's ever that on the menu for dessert, like it's like always a guarantee. Like, I'm gonna get that.
It's so good. And I love when they're like classic is awesome too, but I love when they're like out of the box too. Like one of the restaurants I used to work at was the Boathouse in Tiverton.
Yep.
And our pastry chef was sick.
Okay.
And they were like, I was in culinary school at the time, and they were like, you take baking classes, right? Like, here's her recipe. Make the creme brulees for all of dinner service.
Oh man.
And so I did, but it was
that's
blueberry creme brulee with like real actual blueberries in it. So when you baked them, they like exploded. So then it kind of looked like it was like marble blue. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
And delicious.
That is very cool. I love that. That's a great answer. I guess similar question would be the last rapid fire. Favorite, or you can pick more than one if you want, but favorite restaurant in Rhode Island?
Oh, that's so hard. That is so hard. I'm going to go with a bunch of restaurants. Anything Federal Hill. Okay,
yeah.
Anything Fed Hill. That's like old school Italian is my jam.
Do you have any like that stick out to mind?
Massimo is a huge one. When Sienna was over there, I used to love Sienna too, but now they
moved,
closed
right?
that location.
Oh, they closed it?
Yeah. stupid.
Oh.
COVID.
Yeah, oh, that's what it was?
Yeah.
That's tough.
I think so.
That's cool.
Yeah, any of those like old school that have been there for decades.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love it.
I really like, we haven't been in a while, but the old canteen.
Yep.
Do that first one on the side.
Yep.
I think they're actually getting bought out too, unfortunately.
No.
But, I heard something there. Well, they're for sale. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but it's just a very old school vibe. The prices are old school too. It's
Yeah.
pretty cheap
Nice.
comparatively for a lot of places.
Yeah, Fed Hill can be kind of
Yeah.
expensive. Nick's
Yeah.
on Broadway is another one of
yeah.
my huge favorites.
That's a great one.
Oh, I love it.
I always love asking someone who's like, because you're a chef, like in the culinary world, like what they like for
Yeah.
food.
Yep.
I had a friend who was a chef at the Vanderbilt. He's from Guadalajara. He actually moved back to Guadalajara, but
Cool.
so he's very very I guess
Particular.
particular
Yes.
about Mexican food.
Yes.
Because he's like, I know what real Mexican
Yeah.
food is.
We
So
have like crappy American
yeah,
Mexican food.
yeah. So like even the places that I think are incredible, like
Yeah.
Diego's in Newport, like I
Yep.
love Diego's, and he's like,
Dude.
sure, that's fine, but like that's not Mexican food. Like it's
Yeah.
just a heads up. I'm like,
Yep.
really? He's like, yeah, that's nothing.
Oh, no.
So one place that he loved was there's a place in Providence, Dolores.
Yep.
Have you heard of that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's like, this is easily one of my favorite Mexican one. So I'm like, all right.
Nice.
So it's cool coming from like a chef, like food, like these are the places to go to, you know.
Yeah, it is. I've learned over the years that it's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It's like I can't
Can't turn it
change
off.
my standards. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just it's so hard. My family gets annoyed sometimes because they just want to go to like, I don't know. Sometimes you just want to go to like an Applebee's or like
Sure,
something
yeah.
like that, and I just like okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because like I know it's coming from freezer stuff and
Sure.
ugh,
Sure.
it's tough.
What do you? I always ask this question, just in general. But what do you think of Chipotle? I ask nutritionists because I'm a huge fan.
Yep. I think Chipotle got a bad rap for a while.
Okay.
I think the amount of customization that you can do is helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
I
yeah.
think Chipotle can be really heavy. But it's
Depends what you put
kind of
on it, I
up to
guess.
you.
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
I actually did. I've been doing an Instagram series of where I take a regular kind of plate that's called like the good plate, where it's maybe your like cheese quesadilla from Chipotle, and then the other side of the post is like the better. Like, how do we make it more balanced? How do we make
Sure.
it more like athlete friendly?
Sure.
So doing something more like a bowl that's got like the rice, the beans, the veggies, the color, the guac, like it's got
Yeah.
more of like a balanced picture of things. So there's definitely ways to do it.
Sure.
You just have to be smart.
Sure. Awesome.
A little bit smarter about it.
All right. Well, you didn't shoot it down, so I'm
No,
happy.
no, I can't shoot it down. I do eat it myself.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Before we get into some of the big topics here, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about slightly that you touched upon, which was you mentioned as far as protein goes. There's something else too, but as far as protein goes, you mentioned that we probably are. Well, some of us are probably shooting for more protein than we actually need a lot of times. Is that because what I've heard as far as, and I'm sure there's different stuff out there, but as far as protein goes, you're trying to get like around a gram per pound of body weight. Is that kind of like within an okay range, or
Yeah.
it depends? Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
around like the 0.8, 1, even like depending on your activity level and your goals, even like a 1.2, I wouldn't go higher than that.
Yeah.
It's just, one, it's not sustainable.
Sure.
You'd be eating protein literally all day, every day, and that's just not fun
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like if you've gotten to the point where the majority of your protein intake is coming from protein shakes and
Yeah.
liquid forms, like we kind of need to reevaluate things.
Yeah.
I know it's tough to get higher protein intake in with just solid foods, and it can be useful as a tool.
Sure.
But if
sure.
you get to the point where like you're trying to hit 300 grams of protein, like that would just be absurd. Unless
Yeah.
you're a larger person
Sure,
that needs
sure.
that. But it's just diet culture took it, and
Yeah. It's like how many shakes a day is too many shakes a day type of thing.
literally,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you're gonna be in the bathroom also. So
Yeah, it's tough because like I don't know if it's there's a lot of people out there who are lactose intolerant, and a lot of those shakes are made from like whey, lactose-based products.
Yep.
And I feel like for that, I mean, this could be true or false, but like there's like a spectrum of how lactose intolerant you are. So like, I think at some point, I mean, me and myself, like there's a certain amount where there's a tipping point where like, all right, I'm becoming more lactose. It's like I've had enough lactose today.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, it's and I guess on that point too, any types of proteins that you like better than others, like casein, whey. I know there's like beef, there's like grass-fed protein out there, pea protein. Like, there's so many.
Yeah.
Oh, cricket protein.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Which is actually like I feel like the new age of Like if you haven't done research on cricket, it's crazy.
Really?
It is like it's like less volume.
Sure.
That you would need to consume for higher protein amounts, and there, if you're comparing it to like the environment, the climate change, the stuff like that, to farm crickets takes a lot less space. They don't need as many resources as like a cow farm would.
Sure. Okay.
So
that
like
makes sense.
for climate change and like sustainable
eco-friendly?
resources, literally, it's like it's gonna be new age. I'm telling you. Yeah.
Have you tried it?
I have.
Yeah.
I've tried cricket chips.
Okay.
Yeah, so like they typically like either roast them or whatever, grind them down, so it's like super fine powder.
Yeah.
And then put it into other things.
I wonder how many crickets it takes for like one shake. There's got to be like hundreds of crickets, right?
But because there's so ample.
Yeah, there's unlimited amount basically.
Yeah, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I haven't tried like I always say it wrong. The Seiko taco.
Oh yeah, Zacco taco.
I have no idea how to say it. Yeah, with an X.
Yes.
They do like whole roasted crickets.
No way.
Which I have not done because that freaks me out just a little bit. I need them kind of like hidden.
Please powderize this.
Yeah, I need them kind of hidden in things.
No, I get that.
Yes, but
that's interesting.
Sorry, to answer your actual question.
Enough about crickets. No.
Yeah, I would say if we're talking animal based, your best is probably anything that's like the hydrolyzed or the isolated whey, just because it's a little bit more bioavailable. It's easier for our bodies to break down because it's already kind of broken down for us. If we're not animal based, if we're in the plant based world, the soy, the pea, there's isolates with both of them kind of combined.
Yeah. Okay. What do you because those are words I get heard thrown around a lot, the hydrolyzed and the isolated. So I guess can you break those down a little bit?
Yep. So the hydrolyzed is more, so it's the fuller form of protein. So it has like the whey, the casein, everything kind of in its whole molecule form. It's just kind of broken down farther, where the isolate is just the whey protein concentrate, or the concentrate is removed, so it's just the isolate itself.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like the broken down form where it's a little bit more of a targeted protein approach, where the other one has kind of all the different parts. It's just further processed, if you will.
Okay, yeah. So those are both just good options for most people.
Yeah, I think the main difference I would say is just tolerability.
Sure.
Like if you can't tolerate the fuller forms, the hydrolyzed, try an isolate because it's less of that like tough feeling, the heavy feeling in your stomach sometimes.
Interesting. Okay, that's good, especially for people. And a lot of people have like they don't do well on protein, so that's good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Cool. All right, I'll stop rifling off questions about that. So I want to get into a little bit, kind of where we had left off last time, into the weeds here. So we talked a little bit about kind of organic versus non-organic, macros, water intake last time. We touched upon supplements a little bit, but there was a couple that I kind of wanted to quickly review here. So we talked about creatine. We talked about fish oil is a good one. Mm-hmm. Protein powder we just hit pretty hard.
Yep.
Multivitamins. I don't think we touched upon L-glutamine.
I don't think we did either.
Yeah. So I know. So when would you take that, or when would you use L-glutamine? Yeah.
So it's best if you can find it in its own supplement form. Like I've seen a lot of supplements that have like, if it's a creatine or a protein powder or something that has the L-glutamine in it, or even in like another amino acid type supplement that's got it in it,
Sure.
I would aim to just get the L-glutamine by itself. That's the most effective way to have it. So glutamine is really, it's another amino acid, but it's really helpful for muscle recovery. So soreness, decreasing length of actual recovery that we need with the amount of work and stress that we put on them. But it's, again, simplest form by itself is good. So taking it just on a daily basis would be helpful, but I try to do it as part of kind of like my post-workout, whether it's in a shake, because it's typically powder, or usually like shake smoothie type is best. You can get unflavored ones and just put them in water, but it's like a texture thing. I can I like know it's in there.
Even with the creatine, I feel that way sometimes too.
It's like
just gritty.
Yeah, it's weird.
And no matter like how much you blend it, it's always there.
Yeah.
Like how?
Like I'm chewing on this.
Yeah. I just like what's the highest blend? Is it Liquify? Is the highest setting on the blender, whatever it is.
Yep.
I have one of the old school blenders.
It's got all the buttons.
Like Liquify, I think is the highest setting. I'm like, how do I still taste the grittiness of this creatine?
You go through all the buttons individually.
Just hit them all. Yeah. There's definitely way too many buttons on blenders, but like whatever. Besides the point. All right, cool. That's good. And then some of the ones we mentioned last time, get kind of not worth your money. Some of the greens powders, which are super popular right now in the influencer world. The BCAAs, the stimulants, and then kind of anything with like the fat burners or metabolism boosters.
Yeah. Just like the fad supplement stuff. It's
sure.
Like it can be achieved through food.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it can be achieved like the fat burners, the rapid metabolism boosters. Like you can achieve that one by making dietary changes, and like I don't know, maybe address your sleep and stress and like other things that play a role in your metabolism. But it's like you're taking a pill that's got caffeine and guarana and ashwagandha and like all these things. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's probably doing more suppression than it is helping. Or it might help for a little while, but then now are we creating a dependency around them?
Sure.
Question mark. Like why not just focus on the lifestyle changes?
Right. Yeah, it seems like kind of a quick fix type thing that may actually hurt you in the long run.
Yeah.
I know a big one for the fat burners was, I don't know if they even still have it, was the hydroxy cut.
Oh my God, yeah.
I remember seeing like a bunch of, this was way back, like people like, I don't know if people were dying, but like people were having bad side effects. It was like because they were taking too much of it, and it's just like, it's powerful stimulant. So it's like,
it's so cringy too. Like I can vividly see their like advertisements in my head with like
just the lady with the waist
the trainer the abdomen trainer or the guy that's like ripped out of his mind like you're telling me that he takes hydroxycut and that's all we're doing to achieve that aesthetic. Solid.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
Not to mention probably the editing on the photography side.
Like you're telling me he's not covered in baby oil right now?
Yes, definitely. All right, cool. So we'll move on. So we hit supplements pretty hard last time. So we're gonna switch gears and get a little bit more into the movement and fitness side of things now.
Yes.
So we'll start off with you. What type of exercise do you like to do for yourself?
Yeah. So any of the former athlete world can probably relate to this. So any level of athlete too. Like if you played high school sports, like it's still ingrained in your system, not negating that. So any level, doing something that requires you to enjoy it, I would say, right? So for a long time, I experienced when my soccer career was over that I was running, I was like continuing to do the things that were like drilled into me essentially, and I hated it. It's like I lost the purpose. I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. And so I stopped for a while. And then became the question of like, okay, but what do I actually enjoy doing? And if you're not enjoying the movement that you're doing, I would say to kind of do a nice little re-eval for yourself. So that's when I kind of put a lot more energy and effort into lifting. And that's when I kind of got my CPT and all of that and just understanding the new science behind it that I had never really understood. Biomechanics and it's fascinating. It still is. So I kind of like hit that hard for a while, and then I realized I was kind of falling into that same pattern where It's like that's the only world I was living in.
Sure.
So now building my program, working with clients, I've kind of coined everyone's a little bit more familiar with like the intuitive eating side of things. And I found a world of intuitive exercise where you can mix and match different exercises, different activities to reach your movement goals, but you can enjoy the things that you're doing in different capacities. So for me, it's a mix of lifting, we love doing outdoor stuff, so hiking, walking with the dogs.
Nice.
I also do yoga, Pilates, like the slower type movements to help with like mobility and recovery and all of that good stuff. But I still play soccer now that I've healed my relationship with all of that. But it's finding the balance of movement because one, you're going to enjoy it more.
Sure.
Two, it's so much better for our bodies long term too, because if you're drilling it in one path, that's eventually going to become a rut you're not going to be able to get out of.
Right.
So the more diverse movement, the more diverse that we can make our bodies work, different planes of motion, different directions, different loads, all of these things, it's better for our joints, it's better for our tendons, like long-term body health.
Totally. No, I like that a lot. I think that's something that's said often, but it just isn't taken at face value, which is like for exercise, find something that you enjoy. But like people say that like, oh yeah, I mean that makes sense, but then they don't really take that deeper than what it looks like, and they just go do something that they hate. They're
like, okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. I don't know like go walk on the treadmill for an hour and just be bored out of my mind, or whatever. So yeah, find something you enjoy. I think that's. I really like the story behind like the way you said that. I think that's super impactful.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple questions too that are really helpful. So understanding like where, like waking up in the morning and kind of doing a self check-in and being like, okay, what does my body feel like doing today? Like give your body the chance to communicate with you, because they do. We just don't listen to them all the time, or we shut them up in ways. But kind of do a self check-in, figure out kind of what you're feeling for the day. If you have such a strict, like, well, today has to be a lift day, so I have to get a lift in. Right. But if you wake up and feel like poop, like why are we, now we're just reinforcing the negative wheel.
Right.
Exercise is punishment.
Sure.
And it's not sustainable. So do kind of like that self check-in. What are you feeling like? You can also manipulate the pieces. So you can change the amount of time that you're working out. You can change the intensity that you're working out at.
Sure.
If you're feeling a little bit on the poopier side, work out less time, less intensity. 20 minutes of like nice, moderate weight activity is still something.
Totally.
Right? There's also something, I don't know if we talked about this last time, called NEAT. So the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's what I explain to my clients on that is like, it's like pennies in a piggy bank.
Yep.
Like you park on the far side of the parking lot to walk into work, you're putting pennies in the piggy bank.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting that neat movement, and it's not constructed exercise. It's getting your metabolism up. It's burning calories in a different way, walking the stairs at work.
Totally.
Doing an extra lap around the grocery store when you're done. Like little things like that. It's just pennies in the piggy bank all day long.
Yeah. I like that. Choosing stairs over the escalator.
Yep.
Or elevator. Escalator?
That's the stairs that move.
Yeah. Oh, that works too, right? Both of them. Yeah. Or the moving sidewalks in the airport.
Oh my God, yeah. Those are so fun though.
They are fun, yeah. That's true. Maybe you can walk on them when you're on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what
efficiency.
I do.
Yes.
It's like the feeling of being like you're, I don't know, flying.
Yeah, like Star Wars or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, this is the future.
It's fun. I would say if you haven't tried it, to walk backwards on them.
Oh, okay.
That's fun.
Nice.
That is fun.
Hopefully, no security will come yell at me when I do that. I'm flying. I'm going on a flight in 2 days, so I'll give that a try. I'll let you know how it goes.
You have to do it. Just make sure there's not like a herd of people in front of you first.
Yes. Don't bowl anybody over. No, but along those points, there was another story. I really enjoy like doing CrossFit as my thing, my workout. Yeah. There was a gym we were at in Middletown, and there was 2 new people coming in, and they were like starting to get into it. and didn't really have too much of a fitness background, which is fine. It doesn't matter. But there was like 2 weeks in, and I was coaching. I was coaching like twice a week there, and I was asking like, hey, so how are you liking it so far? They're like, oh, I absolutely hate it. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, you do? I'm like, okay. And of course they stopped coming, which is probably good.
Yeah.
They find
Oh my
something else.
goodness. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I hate it. I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah. Thank
hopefully
you
it's
for the
not me.
honesty.
But like, no, they're like, no, it's just like, it can be like in a very intense
Yes.
style workout. So
Yeah.
it's like, that doesn't have to be for everybody. You know, there's
Yeah.
other things that you can do instead. But they're like, no, but it's good for me. I'm like, okay, like, all right, well,
Yeah.
hopefully they found something else. But
I mean,
yeah.
technically doing like the Stairmaster for an hour is good for you, but
Sure,
is that
yeah.
also enjoyable?
Yeah,
No.
maybe to some people, but I feel like most
Maybe.
people, yeah, not so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, hard pass on that.
So to dive into that just a little bit deeper, coming from like an athlete's perspective, like like refinding your purpose. Like I feel like a lot of people that have been in organized sports for a long time, they do feel like they're kind of like in this unknown territory once they're done with that.
Yeah, like what the heck do I do now?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, how were you able to make that transition? I guess like how would you give advice to someone who's like in that same position?
Yeah, it's funny too because I don't know if you follow football. I'm sure you do.
Sure,
To some
yeah.
degree. Yeah. Travis Kelce's
Yeah.
retirement video
Yeah.
from yesterday. Like I watched that and literally like it like pained my heart because I know not to that degree, but I
Yeah.
know what that feels like.
Totally.
I know like what you've worked on for so long is now gone.
Yeah.
And like, yes, I can still play on like a rec level, but it's different. But to make that transition, it really, I would say, first and foremost, give yourself some time. Like, let your body rest and reset. Give yourself time to kind of do the other fun stuff, explore different hobbies, explore different types of movement. Maybe you're traveling, maybe you're doing group classes with your friends, or something maybe not exercise related at all. You
Yeah.
start crocheting or something
Yeah.
that's just maybe you didn't have time to do before because you were so sports focused 24/7. So give yourself some time, and then one of the biggest conversations I have with my clients when we first start working together is like, what are those long-term goals? Long-term talking like 85 plus years old. Long term. And how do we root our body's purpose to those things? So one of the things that I was talking to a client last night about this, like my goal, a lot of people's goals is like stay out of the hospital, stay off medication, like avoid the diseases as much as possible. Duh. But I always say like, I just want to be able to squat for as long as possible because that's the difference between me going to the bathroom on my own or not.
Yeah. Totally.
Like what?
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. Like that is independence in a nutshell.
Yep.
But if we don't root those causes to how our bodies are living in this physical world right now to those things, that's not something that I'm going to start working on at 85. Right. That's things that I'm doing now to set myself up for success, to help out future Colby.
Yeah.
And it's finding other purposes. Like I said, find some exercise purpose. Find your body's purpose is maybe just that you're showing love to family and friends, to whether it's like physical touch or verbal affirmations or just quality time. Like our bodies do so much for us. It's not just the physical aspects of us and what it can do from like an activity level, but it's like I said, the community, maybe it's financially related, maybe it's work related, traveling, it's especially women, like housing another life inside of you and like procreating like that. If that's not a purpose, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But it's harder to, I think, identify those things as solidly as like, I am an athlete because that was so long, but I don't necessarily think that we have to also stop that.
Sure.
Like I still consider myself an athlete. It's just in a different shape and form and mindset. I'm a much healthier athlete than I ever was now. But it's taken me a while to get here.
Yeah.
But finding different purposes in all facets of life, I think, is the most helpful.
Totally. And something we had briefly mentioned about that too is like once you're at a sport, once you're at a season, out of the normal training, I guess the training differences. There's training differences. There's you can kind of get into the all or nothing like approach style. There's like some perfectionism that can travel over.
Some
Some
perfection.
So I guess what's your advice to people for getting over those barriers?
It's a lot of mindset.
Yeah,
It's a lot of awareness. First and foremost, like we have to actually be able to identify these things, but identify them without pigeonholing yourself.
Okay.
And I'll use myself as the example. For a long time, I was like, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a type A. That's just who I am and how I work. But I stuck that label on myself and just like subscribed to it.
Yeah.
Where I can now I say something more like I have perfectionistic tendencies.
I like that.
So I'm not labeling myself as that anymore because now I'm almost allowing that behavior to be okay.
Right.
Where now it's like, okay, I'm more aware now. I'm more intentional and intuitive with things. So I'm seeing those tendencies, but I can also choose a different way.
Yeah, it's a simple switch in verbiage, but it opens up to like, oh, I have control of this versus this controls me type of thing. Yeah, I like that.
And I think allowing flexibility in there too, like especially with perfectionism, flexibility is really uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah.
Not having the control over things, but just the more that we can be okay with like just letting the punches roll and like you said with that all or nothing approach, like just identifying that there's a gray. There's a gray in the middle between things, that it's okay to not know what you're doing tomorrow. It's okay to have some of the unknowns and explore a little bit and be okay with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest tip is just not allowing yourself to identify and subscribe to those things if you don't want to.
Right. Sure. No, I like that. And then a piece of that's another changing variable as people come out of sports can be the changing in weight. So I guess how do you identify that? How do you help people with that as well?
Yeah. So most common, and I'm not segregating a box of things, but most commonly it is a weight gain that happens because activity levels change, right? Typically activity levels go down. Maybe we're a little bit more sedentary. Maybe now you're working a full-time job post-college and now you're sitting at a desk 9 to 5. So most of the time it's weight gain. There is some, depending on the sport you're playing or played, like a football linebacker who is now done with football might experience weight loss, right? Like they push calories so much to keep a certain weight. So there's a world of sports that there's also weight loss too, but commonly weight gain. Definitely allowing some grace. Like maybe you're getting your body to a point where it's going to be more sustainably comfortable long term.
Yeah.
Right? It's maybe you don't have the six pack anymore. Maybe you're fluffier, softer, whatever term you want to use. But if you're still prioritizing your health, maybe that's just where your body wants to be comfortable at. And if that's 5 or 10 pounds heavier than your athlete weight, maybe that's okay.
Right.
Like maybe that's healthier for you long term. And allowing that to be okay, not fighting that so much, but it's the extremes that we obviously want to start kind of being more mindful about. The 50 plus weight gain, the big weight shifts for any reason is not ideal for our bodies to go through.
Totally.
But if you're an endurance marathon runner through college, like long distance, and your body fat is like 5% and you haven't had a period in 10 years,
right?
You should be gaining weight when you're done with your sport, right? Your body cannot sustain that level of intensity for so long. Like it's okay. It's really freaking hard to accept, but it's allowing your body to kind of tell you where it should be most comfortable at. But having someone by your side that's going to tell you that is going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy.
Right. Acknowledging that, hey, this is okay. Like there was a time in your life where, like marathon runner, like where yes, you're pushing performance, but that can't be a long-term sustain. Well, it will look different. I guess maybe is a better way to put it. Because you can still continue to run, train, do marathons, but maybe that peak performance competition period looks different, like moving forward, potentially.
Yeah. And I think just allowing our bodies the time and space to change too, like us, I don't know. I feel like just society, I guess, villainizes the gray hair, the like saggier skin, like the body changes that we're all gonna eventually have.
Aging.
Yeah, literally. But we also go through those things differently at younger ages. Like our bodies change, and that's okay. Like I feel like that's like the middle school like puberty talk. Like
no,
your
literally.
body's changing, just in a totally different capacity.
Your body's doing wonderful things now.
Yeah, but like identifying that and allowing that to be okay. But I think it's also really helpful to make it a positive experience.
Sure.
So for me, I know one of the biggest triggers for me used to be like shopping for clothes or like getting into the changing rooms.
Sure.
And having to get like a different size or seeing that different like letter or the different number on the clothes. And that was really triggering. But if we're, again, working in the space of like allowing things to be okay and allowing our bodies to change, my, I guess, biggest message with anything in that world is remembering that your body is allowed to change and we don't have to think about it directed towards size specifically. Clothes do not have to change to fit your body.
Sure.
It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Like we shouldn't be changing our bodies to fit into specific clothes.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. We should be using different clothes to fit our bodies how they are comfortably, and that's a different size, a different letter, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable and you're feeling your best, that's all that matters.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like that's, I mean, maybe more so women in general, but I mean, I'm sure men have the issue too, but I feel like it can be a tough like mental battle, like when you're going through some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
It's good to have someone like yourself who's like an expert in like dealing with a lot of these things. Like, hey, this is what we do. This is what's okay. Like, you know, having a guide, I think is super beneficial.
Yeah. And even if you don't have someone like me working with you as a professional, but even just communicating about what you're struggling with, talk to an old teammate, talk to a friend, talk to a family member, talk to your partner. Like it's so much easier when you have someone, even if they don't necessarily understand, to at least be your mirror to be like, it's okay.
Yeah. Have a community, have a support system.
Yes, absolutely. It's super helpful, especially if you're a team-based athlete. Like having that support again in a different way it's like, this feels so good.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk, we went off track slightly, which is fine, which is great, but I wanted to get a little bit more into some of the like weeds for like exercise. So, as far as now that we've talked about how weight gain is okay, what have you seen work well for weight loss? So I know we briefly had mentioned like maybe some like strength, cardio, like that type of stuff. Like what do you feel like works well? Like, and then what are the differences for, I guess, per person?
Yes. So I would say finding that nice balance, that nice mix of exercise is going to be helpful, especially if your goal is weight loss, because you can't just do cardio 7 days a week and expect that to be successful. It's just not.
Sure.
So I would say we know from science that strength training, resistance training is one of the best modalities to do that for. The more lean muscle tissue that we have, the more efficient our bodies and the more efficient our metabolisms are at burning calories. Mm-hmm. And subsequently what tends to happen is you lose fat. That happens. Like that is everybody's goal. Like I want to gain more muscle but lose fat at the same time.
Right.
That's probably not going to happen for most people. So I think if also understanding like if your goal is weight loss, that you might have to be okay with gaining some weight first. If it's that nice lean muscle tissue, if you're strength training, you might see the scale move up a little bit, but then you'll kind of hit the point where you're sustaining that. And if you're making the good dietary changes, you'll see the weight come back down because that's your actual true fat loss.
Sure.
So strength training, definitely. If we're doing cardio, I do definitely recommend to be mindful about the type of cardio that we're doing and at what intensity cardio we're doing, because especially with women, it can drive our cortisol levels through the roof. And the more cortisol we have in our bodies, the more likely we are to hold on to inflammation. Yep. And if we're holding on to inflammation, we're not losing weight.
Totally.
We're not working really well at all with any of our systems. So threshold, I always recommend something interval based is going to be the most helpful. Whether it's a HIIT training, whether it's if you're out on a run doing more of like a sprint jog type of deal. Like I run telephone poles.
Yeah.
but you're kicking that intensity up with whatever activity you're doing for a shorter amount of time, and then you're coming back down, not necessarily to a rest state, but to that moderate range.
Yep.
But it's what we're trying to get away from is doing that like moderate level intensity on the elliptical where you're like reading a book at the same time.
Sure.
For
a
45 plus minutes.
Yeah.
It's not productive. You could cut that time in half with an interval training and burn the same, if not more, calories. And it's better for your body to do that too.
Yeah. So that's exactly you answered my question. Like so we want to avoid that cortisol just in general. Like
yes.
Not better to have less in general.
Yes. Yeah.
But so some ways we can do that is by doing like the HIIT training, avoiding maybe that like moderate to high intensity for over a prolonged amount of time.
Yep. Same on the flip side though. Yeah. Avoid the low intensity for a prolonged time too.
Sure. Mix it up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Like
you need those like short pushes to get your metabolism kicked on, you're burning calories at more efficient rates, but you're not putting your body through that like moderate state stress where it thinks that it's inflamed.
Sure. Okay. Another piece of that I like that you said, strength training like kind of trumps everything. It's like it's the best piece for science says like, okay, for metabolism, muscle, fat loss, everything. A lot of people, I know more so women that I hear about this, like, oh, I don't want to look like big, like a bodybuilder, and that's the thing we hear all the time. But like I saw, and obviously you speak on it, but I saw a post. It was actually just earlier today before Instagram crashed on me when I was trying to post a podcast. But it was I forget who had it on there. Oh, it was this guy Jordan Syatt. You follow his Instagram account at all? He's good. I like his stuff.
Okay.
He's a trainer out of New York, but he's very like he's evidence based, but also he's very entertaining.
Nice.
Like no BS.
Yeah, he's got that personality.
Just like talk straight to the camera.
Nice.
But he was like, yeah, like he's like I get it, like. Every time I get in a car, I think, I hope I don't become a NASCAR driver. Or he rifled off like 10 different examples like that, and you're like, okay, this guy. Like,
I get it.
Like, these are good. These are good examples to kind of make it like, okay, how much time and effort do these these pro bodybuilders, like their entire lives, like in the gym, like nonstop, like 3 hours a day, like. Tons of drugs, like you're not gonna look like that. Like it is what it is. But
unless you actually put in conscious effort,
right?
It's not just gonna like you wake up one day and like, oh,
yeah, right. And if you do, like that's an incredible
good
gift.
For you.
Like you're like the 0.0001%. Like you can go places, but it's just not gonna happen. But I'm sure you hear that like all the time from people. Like, oh, I don't want to look big and bulky. And you're like, it's just that's not gonna happen.
Yes, it is. It's not just going to magically happen. It's almost like the buzzword that's become super popular is tone.
Sure.
I want to be toned.
Yes.
Like, okay. Yes. But to be toned, you have to put on muscle.
Yeah.
You can't tone without muscle. Like
that's where the tone is. It's on the muscle.
That is the tone.
Yeah, literally.
I think a lot of it is just like the misinformation, it's fear tactics. Yeah. Essentially. But it also being so clear about this too, like it's also your own insecurity about body image. And I think I was stuck in that for a long time too. I was called obviously a bunch of names. Everybody was, I think, getting bullied growing up. But one of the things was boulder shoulders. Yeah. Because I was always a little bit wider up top. Sure. And even though I played soccer, which like didn't make sense, but it was something that I was super self-conscious of for a really long time. Yeah. And starting to lift and starting to see like actual like definition in my shoulders and being able to like flex and see striations in the front, like that became something that I was like, wow, like I'm so proud of this, not just from an aesthetic standpoint, but because immediately in my head I can go, I'm so strong. Like, I can, even outside of the gym, like being able to farmer carry groceries up the stairs and not be like dead on the floor afterwards. Sure. That matters so much more to me than the aesthetic piece of it. But I think it's our own, like I said, insecurities that kind of holds us back from, I don't want to look big and bulky. I don't want to have too much muscle because it's not feminine. Like your definition of feminine and beauty is your own. Yep. You can make it whatever you want to as long as you're comfortable and confident with what you're doing and what you have.
Totally.
Own that.
Yeah. There's another good post. Actually, I was just scrolling today. Another good post I saw
That's probably
today.
why it crashed.
It
was like,
put
Matt,
too
you
much
need to
time in.
stop.
Yeah, put your phone down, which is probably a topic for another conversation.
Yeah.
But there's a CrossFitter who's very, very high level here. I'll say her name, Amy Morton. I don't know if you heard the name, but she's trains over at Ocean State.
Nice.
She posted something, and I'm not gonna say word for word because I can't get access to it right now. But pretty much what you said is like, this is like, I'm like, never felt more, and she's a big, like, she's an athlete.
Yeah.
She's strong,
Muscle,
muscular.
yeah.
She's like I never felt like more confident in my body. Like, this is who I am, this and that. Like, so I feel like we're starting to see a shift in general, like with female athletes. Like, I'm biased. I see a lot of the CrossFit stuff, but I see the stuff from the CrossFit women posting about it. Like this is who I am. This is feminine. Like this, like all this stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Really, really cool to see.
Yeah, I think it's something that I talk to my clients a lot about. Is I feel very hopeful in the near future that we kind of went from this, like, and yes, we'll always have like body stigmas and diet culture and all of that society's controlling of, and like the certain body types. But I feel like our generation now is a little bit more progressive, so we kind of like flew to the other side of things where it's like body positivity and you have to love your body. You have to wake up and tell yourself that you love yourself. I tend to pull it back a little bit more towards the middle in the world of body acceptance.
Sure.
So it's not, you don't have to wake up in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself, because maybe you don't. If you're having a bad body image day and you're not feeling your greatest, at least you know that you're treating your body with respect and doing the things on a daily basis that you know that it deserves at the end of the day.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that you have to be like, I love my muscles today, because maybe you don't.
Yeah.
But at least you're going to drink water. You're going to maybe move. You're going to eat nourishing meals. You're doing the things that you know that your body still deserves.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but it's not so forced.
Sure.
Because that's not going to help you.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah. There's no reason to force it, because it's almost fake to a point. Like, you don't really believe yourself if you're saying it.
Yeah. It's not like actually rooted in your own belief system. So it's not going to be helpful.
I'm trying to force myself to say that and think that, and it's like, no, that's not helping.
Yeah. No, it's not. It really totally is not. And finding other things that that you're proud of, that your body is allowing you to do that day. Like, if my legs weren't functional, I wouldn't be able to walk into this podcast today, maybe.
Yeah. It's a big set of stairs going in here.
Right? Right. But, like, if maybe I'm, like, harping on the cellulite on the outside of my legs or something, now it's coming towards summer and people wear less clothing.
Yeah.
But, like, if I didn't have function in my legs, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things.
Sure.
Redirect that to, like, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for letting me do XYZ.
Yeah, I like that as a good strategy. Redirect it, find the positives, find the blessings in it. That's good. That's good stuff. I do want to talk. I'm going to use cortisol as kind of our transition point, because I'm going backwards to forwards here. So I think one of the ways we can help with inflammation, recovery, cortisol, that might be a stretch, but sleep.
Yeah.
So
people with high cortisol typically have trouble with sleep.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. It makes sense.
All right. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about just sleep in general next. So how does this, something that's talked about a lot, but I think in the weight loss, weight gain section is overlooked how impactful it is on how it affects us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm not a sleep expert by any means, but I'll talk from kind of my areas of expertise, the food part, the exercise part. So from like a dietary change, weight loss, weight gain perspective, sleep has a big role in the choices that we make when it comes to food and our dietary choices. And having our systems kind of be more asleep throughout the day is not ideal. Like, if we're not having hunger and fullness cues, if we're not getting thirsty for water, if we're not going to the bathroom regularly, all of these things, a lot of that can come down to poor sleep habits, because our bodies do not rest and recover if we're not getting good quality sleep. Like, I feel like everybody kind of knows that, but I don't think people realize how much connection that has to a lot of the other things that we're trying to work on.
Right.
So, like, an example being, if you're like a chronic insomniac and you're up all night, you're watching Netflix, you're more likely to go binge on some popcorn, some sweets, some chocolate, ice cream, whatever it is. Right. You're not going to go like, ready for a salad. That's just, it's not the behavior. Right. And vice versa, if you're up all night and you're not sleeping and you're tossing and turning, your food choices the next day might not be ideal because your body is going to start getting into the state of chronic fatigue, inflammation.
Right.
Now you're craving more sweets, more carbs, more of the evil, which it's not. If you listen to episode 1, you know that I don't mean that.
Yes. But less nutrient dense
less
foods, I guess.
nourishing foods. Yeah. So, and something that I learned that was really helpful was not just to harp on the quantity of sleep, because everyone pushes like, you have to get 8 hours or 7 to 8 hours and you'll be golden. If you're hitting light sleep for that amount of time, you're still not doing good things.
Yeah.
So focusing on habits that can really push you into that like deep sleep zone. That's the only zone that our bodies actually start repairing or rebuilding muscle tissue.
Yeah.
So now talking about like exercise world. If you're waking up chronically feeling sore from your workouts, that's not a good thing.
Right.
Like your body is not recovering appropriately. We need to kind of like reassess some things. And yeah, there's other variables, but it's the quality of the sleep that we're getting is just, it's good for everything too, like mental clarity and productivity and mood, all of the things. So I think making sure that we have, a lot of people focus on like the morning routine. Like you get up, you do your stuff, you do your face wash, like all the good stuff.
Yeah.
There needs to be a nighttime routine.
Yeah.
Like putting your phone down.
Totally.
Calling
Not
you
scrolling.
out. Yeah.
Not scrolling. Put it down. No, that is one thing I do. I find myself like right before bed, like, all right, let's catch up on TikTok. Let's find some funny videos.
So many people.
Yeah. It's bad.
Yep.
I did set myself a little timer on there, so if it
Yes.
hits, it's probably a big amount of time. But if it hits 40 minutes, it'll lock me out. So I'm usually pretty good about like, oh shoot, I feel guilty if I hit that, because sometimes it goes by quick.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Blue light is a big one. The blue light exposure,
Yep.
especially before bed, because it's keeping your eyes working to the point where it takes you longer to get into the deep sleep zone.
Sure. Yeah.
So
even
get
if
stuck
you
in,
don't
like, REM.
notice, you might be in light sleep longer than you know.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I've been a big fan of the blue light like blocker
The
glasses,
glasses,
but I'm
yeah.
sure still like the best thing would probably be just not have a phone at all.
Yeah. So I try. It's definitely not easy, especially owning my own business. I'm sure you know too. Like you have clients messaging you, and like there's always something for us to do.
Yeah.
So I've tried my best to kind of like set an invisible barrier of my room.
Yeah.
So like
nice.
if I'm in the room, my phone, I make sure nothing is pertinent at the moment, which it shouldn't be if it's like 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
I put it into the bed mode. I plug it in and I put it like face down away from me.
Nice.
So I can't reach it.
I like that. The invisible barrier, like no phone zone.
Yep.
Except for an alarm.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Or like I know if it's in do not disturb or sleep, if someone like of my important people call me, it'll still come through.
Totally.
So I think it's like that safety net of like at least if I need to be reached, I can, but it's not. I don't feel the pull to like I have to reach over and start scrolling on something.
Yeah. If you want to do that, go in the living room, go on the couch.
Yeah.
Have your phone time.
Yeah.
But when you come in the room, there's the barrier.
Yep. Yeah. Like when you start your nighttime routine, like let that be a part of it.
Yeah.
Or
I like
outside of it.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. It's really helpful. Other things too, I think, talking about sleep and like improving sleep, that can be part of like a nighttime routine. Using more natural occurring things. So I'm a huge fan of the essential oil world.
Sure.
Using scents, natural fragrances, stuff like that are naturally occurring. Because that's another thing. Artificial fragrances can also drive our inflammation up.
Totally.
So your Yankee candles, unfortunately.
Not the greatest.
No, unfortunately. But things like lavender.
Sure.
Even doing like chamomile tea is really helpful for sleep. Some other ones like lang lang, which I just love saying.
Oh, okay. I've heard it. I'm not even familiar with it.
Yes, it's an herb, but you can find it in essential oil blends most time. Like I have it's like a sleepy time essential oil roller.
Yep.
That like I put on my wrists, I put on like the front of my neck.
Totally.
And it's a combination of like the lavender, the lang lang. I think there's chamomile in there, and I want to say either eucalyptus or mint.
Okay.
So it's like your smelling it while you're trying to fall asleep, or they even make like the essential oil pillow spray that you can spray on, so you're smelling it, and it's just
It's like a trigger almost for sleep in a way. Gotcha.
Yeah,
That
yep.
makes
it
sense.
it helps neural pathways,
Yeah.
cellular response
Like,
for
hey,
you to
this
like
is
get
sleep
into
time.
deeper sleep. Yep, and it
That
helps
makes
to
sense.
fall asleep too.
Gotcha.
People struggle
Okay.
with that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard. That's awesome. All right. Cool. That's
Yep.
good to know.
Yeah.
As far as I'm gonna take just a quick break right now, and then we'll come back just in a second, and then I want to talk just a couple more topics, just related stress management, and then some just helpful habits and myths. But we'll take a break for a second.
Yeah.
All right, and we're back. One more quick topic on sleep, and then we'll move on here. So, you mentioned a breathing technique that can be helpful.
Yes.
4-7-8.
Yes, 4-7-8 breathing. So, in a nutshell, you breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds.
Okay.
You hold for 7.
Okay.
And then you slowly exhale through pursed lips, like if you were blowing out birthday candles,
Totally.
for 8 seconds.
Nice.
So it lowers heart rate like crazy. It lowers blood pressure. It gets you into more relaxed state. You can do it for like a couple rounds till whatever you're comfortable with. But I will say, if you're not used to breathing techniques, it's pretty tough.
Sure. Yeah. At 8 seconds. I'm like,
I was gonna say
that's a good long
Yeah.
exhalation.
The exhale itself is tough. So if that feels tough, as long as you are doing a longer exhalation than you are an inhalation, it
works.
totally fine. Like if you have to end up working towards like a 4, 5, 6, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
As long as you're still kind of moving up the pyramid,
Totally.
or even like a 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
Something up the ladder kind of like that, as long as you're exhaling longer than you are inhaling. Another really helpful one, which is not on there, but it's called box breathing.
Yeah.
Yep. So I love picturing visuals when I breathe, just because it's more helpful for me. So I usually try to picture like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Sure.
So
yeah.
it's all equal sides of a box. So like you draw the line up, over, down. So it's 4, you inhale 4, hold for 4, exhale 4, hold for 4.
Yep.
Repeat the process.
That's an easy one to remember. I mean,
Yes.
I guess it's somewhat easy, but it takes concentration.
Yeah.
To do it.
Yep.
And I love the Etch-a-Sketch. That's a throwback reference.
I know.
That's good. That's really, I haven't heard that term in a long time.
Yep.
Yeah, those are both really good ones. And sorry, one more point on that. As far as consistency with routines, this is something I also struggle with, is following the rhythm of like waking up at the same time every day.
The sleep-wake cycle. Yeah. So it's especially really hard if we're like the Monday through Friday workers, and then you
Right.
have like, I sleep in for multiple hours on Saturday, Sunday, which like I get, we also need. No one wants
Yeah.
to set an alarm on the weekends.
Right.
But if we can aim for both times, so bedtime and wake up time, to be within like an hour time
Yeah.
window. So if during the week you go to sleep at 10, aim to go to sleep before like 11 on the weekends if you can.
Sure.
Same on the wake up side. If you wake up at 7 during the week or 6, try to, maybe you do have to start with an alarm on the weekends to stay within that like hour-ish mark.
Sure.
If you're like an hour and a half, it's probably not the end of the world, but the more consistent we can stay in those zones, it's not only easier for our bodies to adapt to, but it's habits, right? It's like your morning routine, your nighttime routine, your eating throughout the day. Everything starts to become a little bit more seamless because it's not so, I'll use the eating example, like the eating clean Monday through Friday, and then you just go like
Binging.
yeah,
or
bananas
going
on the
off
weekend.
Yeah.
That's less likely to happen, 1, if you're working on a mindset piece, but 2, if your routine stays similar,
Yeah.
you're more likely to stay nice and consistent with things. And yeah, there's outliers if you're out with friends or at
Yeah,
a concert
yeah.
or something, but
Be flexible.
yeah, it's also like being mindful if those things are coming up or
Yeah.
occurring, like almost like set yourself up for that.
Sure.
Like I know if I'm very like sleep sensitive, I need sleep.
Yeah.
So if I know that like, hey, if I have a late concert that I'm going to tomorrow night, I like sleep tonight needs to be a nice priority.
Right,
Maybe
right.
even throw in like a quick nap that
Yeah.
day if you can. Like help
Be
yourself
well
out.
rested.
Yeah, because you know that it's gonna not be the best.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I know some people who are like, yeah, like they're just so regimented in that. and not in a bad way, but they're like they don't even need an alarm anymore. They just like sit. Yeah, are you one of them?
Yeah.
That blows
I
my
haven't
mind because I'm the exact opposite.
I haven't used an alarm in months, many months.
I can't even fathom how that's possible, just because of how my sleep schedule is.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I
love
only
it.
use them now if I have to for something.
Yeah. Just have it there, like in case like you don't wake up or something like that.
Yeah, that never happens.
No way.
No, I
That's
only
awesome.
really use it like if we had like we were like going on vacation, like had to get up early for a
super
flight
early
or something.
flight.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yep. That's the only thing though. Yeah, my body's just so used to the consistent schedule that it just does it on its own. It's this crazy thing.
That's awesome. So we'll get into a little. We talked a decent amount about stress in general. How does stress impact weight loss, weight gain? So we hit that pretty well. We talked about the exercise piece of that as well. How intuitive exercises can kind of depend on what kind of stress you're experiencing. So maybe like a harder workout or like a softer workout like yoga or like hard exercise. Any other tips I guess you would want to give on that? I know we've hit it pretty good already, but
No, I think
no,
that's
good.
good.
All right, let's go into the habits. So as far as any habits that you find are overly helpful, and then we'll get into some of the ones that are not so helpful
Not so
or
helpful.
detrimental.
Yes.
So what are the ones you really like?
Yeah. So I feel like everybody hears this, but like you said, like knowing things and actually doing them are two different things.
Yes.
Water when we wake up is like going to be so helpful for so many things. And I know a lot of people are stuck in the habit of they wake up and their first grab is coffee, right? You like zombie walk to the kitchen.
True.
And there's a lot of other reasons why that happens. But I always have like my emotional support water bottle on my bedside table. So I wake up before I check my phone, before I go to the bathroom, before I like do all the other things. I take a couple sips of water.
Nice.
Because your body is essentially for X amount of time dehydrated
Yeah.
throughout the night. Like
Fasted, dehydrated.
literally. So even if you pay attention when you go to the bathroom, like your pee is super yellow.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's not ideal.
Right.
So even just having like a little bit, I'm not saying you have to chug water. We should never be chugging water anyways, but have a little bit when you wake up, get kind of that going, start helping your body in some ways, do your other stuff, and then have, some more water, breakfast, the good stuff.
Totally.
But I think having that little bit just kind of like jump starts, and it also makes you just feel better. I think like I don't know. The people that like wake up and don't drink water until like noon, like my mouth is dry thinking about it. Like it's just, and it's one of those habits too where your body, like when you start doing it, your body will start asking for it.
Yeah.
Which is, some people might say frustrating, but
Yeah.
it's a good thing. That's actually a good thing that
Right.
it's like communicating with you
Yeah.
appropriately for
Like,
good
this
things.
is good. Keep doing this.
Yeah. It's like you turn the light switch on. Like the signal is live again. That's good.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
Like, oh no, I'm drinking water. Now I'm relying on water. Like, you always were relying on water,
literally.
but now your body is basically giving you like a positive like affirmation. Like, yes, continue doing this.
Yes.
This is good.
The same happens with hunger cues,
Yeah.
believe it or not.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, like the chronic non-breakfast eaters.
Yeah.
That's like water and eating breakfast are like two of the top things that my clients typically start working on if they're struggling with it, of course. But it's the quick like turnaround positive reinforcement that happens because your body with drinking water is like, oh, now I'm thirsty.
Right.
Oh, now I'm waking up and I'm actually hungry for breakfast because our bodies aren't going to waste time, effort, and energy asking for things if it knows it's not going to get them. Right. It's not going to keep making you hungry in the morning if it knows that you haven't had breakfast in 5 years.
You've suppressed that.
Yep.
Yeah.
The minute you turn that light switch back on, it takes a little while. Sometimes like the quickest I've seen it work is like a week or two.
Wow. Yeah.
And they come back to me and message me like, I was hungry for breakfast this morning.
Like that hasn't happened in years.
Crazy.
That is nuts.
It's crazy. But it's because your body is, like you just said, it's like, yes, like we're getting the things that we're asking for. Like, let's continue
Keep
doing
it coming.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
That's cool. I actually, it is a strangely satisfying feeling when you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat some food.
Yep.
It's like, it feels good.
Yes, it definitely does. It should, at least.
Yes. And then I guess speaking of breakfast, good habits as far as like what type of meal that you're that you're putting in, like a balanced style breakfast?
Yes. So my whole approach is like balance for everything. So a nice balanced plate of breakfast looks like at baseline, if we don't take activity or exercise into account, should be about 50% of our plates coming from color. So
Okay.
fruits, veggies, combination of the two, whatever it is. Other half of our plate is then cut in half again. So we have 25% protein, 25% carbs or starches.
Nice.
So nice balance. You're getting nourishment in. You're getting a nice balance of macros. And the only thing that's kind of not included in there is any sort of like fats or healthy fats. That's kind of, it's not going to be part of your plate, but it's, you know, a smaller serving type that's part of that. But a lot of people miss out on the protein. A lot of people miss out on the color too.
Yeah.
With breakfast. It's usually like all carbs or all protein.
Yep.
We need everything.
It's tough with breakfast to get that color, and I feel like,
is.
yeah.
It is.
What are some tips, I guess, what do you like for color for breakfast?
Fruit.
Yeah,
Anything
yeah.
fruit.
Cool, okay.
Especially like coming into this time of year for us in New England,
Yeah.
at least, like we can get all of our like nice fresh produce back.
Totally.
But even if you don't have that, like use frozen fruit. Like
Yeah.
make a small smoothie on the side.
Totally.
I love adding veggies to things like egg scrambles, omelets.
Mm-hmm.
You can put veggies in your shake too, or even like if you're making a breakfast sandwich. This sounds so odd sometimes to think about, but don't hate it until you try it. But like trying to put like a little bit of like spinach or greens or something if you're making like a breakfast sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Like we do that with like hamburgers and other like chicken
Yeah.
sandwiches and stuff. Why
Yeah.
not breakfast?
Totally. Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, a lot of people will like, I mean, bacon, egg, and cheese is like the big breakfast sandwich. Like, there's never any vegetables. Maybe you get a slice of tomato, and that's like, whoa.
Yeah. Whoa.
We're really doing things
Yeah,
here.
out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like even that, if we're thinking about 50% of your plate coming from color,
Yeah.
piece of tomato
Yeah. That's
is not
5% maybe.
Yeah. So like even that, for an example, like have something on the side.
Yeah.
Like have
right.
have a nice little like mixed fruit bowl or something.
Whatever.
A banana is even just helpful.
There we go. Get that potassium in.
Yeah.
We're bringing it
four
back.
bananas
We're bringing
only.
it back. One other piece of that you had mentioned was, this is something I heard years and years ago, and it blew my mind and depressed me. I'm exaggerating, but waiting at least 60 to 90 minutes before caffeine.
Yeah, any caffeine source, not just coffee. Yeah, going back to the conversation with cortisol and inflammation. Yeah, so with our wake up times, if you're zombie walking to the kitchen to grab coffee, so if we think about it, I always like using like the gas and fire scenario. So if we are asleep, our cortisol is kind of like a neutral-ish level. It should be because we're asleep. Then we wake up. Right, especially if you have one of those alarms that makes you like cringe in your skin, like the blaring alarms. Yeah, so now we're going from like here to like you're shot through the roof with your cortisol because now you're triggered. Now you're awake, very aggressively awake. So use a nice, like the alarms that like get gently louder, I would say is very helpful for cortisol. But if not, so now you're awake, now your cortisol spiked. It takes about 60 to 90 minutes for our bodies to respond, to start working, to metabolize and bring that back to like kind of our working day level. If we're already jumped and then we tack on caffeine from coffee, from tea, from stimulant, whatever, it's gasoline on fire.
Sure.
It jumps. Yeah, it jumps. So you got to give your body time to like regulate back down to a normal working state of cortisol, and then you can have your caffeine. You can do your stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's beneficial to get that the parasympathetic versus the sympathetic.
Yes.
It's a natural part of the body. Rest, digest, recover. So if you're just punching sympathetic from the second you wake up, not ideal.
Totally not ideal. Yeah. But it's, again, like going back to our bodies kind of adjusting to things, drinking water, eating breakfast. It also adjusts to that. So it's going to feel like hell for a little bit, especially if you're really like caffeine dependent or caffeine sensitive. But it's your body kind of like adjusts. Then like I've gotten to the point now where some days I have to like actually remind myself to like, oh, you haven't had coffee yet. And it's like 11 o'clock.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing it kind of just out of choice, out of
I
like the flavor, I like the warmth, it's comforting, like but then I can have like a mug instead of
a massive thing.
Yeah. Because I'm not dependent on it.
Totally. No, that's ideal. That's really good. So which I guess that transitions nice into some detrimental habits. So one of the first ones you had talked about was the skipping meals and fasted workouts.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
No. No. Yeah, especially if your goal is anything weight related or metabolism related. You're ignoring all of the systems.
Sure.
It's not ideal. Especially talking from like a weight loss perspective, if you're working out fasted or if you're skipping meals throughout the day and it's maybe coming from a place of, well, I'm just not hungry. One,
Sure.
we just talked about what's going to happen when you start eating. But two, your body is working on systems that it doesn't love working off of. So you're trying to burn through muscle mass. You're trying to burn through fat, which is good, but our bodies take a lot of work and effort to get to that point.
It's inefficient.
Yes. You end up almost like, again, burning through muscle mass, which is what we don't want to happen.
Right.
To get to your goals. But versus, why don't you just fuel appropriately?
Yep.
Give your body what you actually want it to burn efficiently, correctly.
Yeah.
And now it's focusing on the other things. Now you have the energy to get your habits done and do the things. But you can do like some serious metabolism damage by doing that long term.
Totally. And then you're running into weight issues and fat issues.
Yeah, you're
with
hitting
that.
plateaus.
Yeah. Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Gotcha. Next one we had mentioned was you had mentioned was the unrealistic goals for nutrition and exercise.
Yeah. Yep. So the classic like January 1st New Year's resolutions examples are always like they hit home. But setting like such big goals, I don't want to knock setting big goals because those are really important too. But like take that and like break it down into little chunks.
Yes.
That you can manage. We're not trying to like trick ourselves into meeting goals, but it's more manageable. And the more little goals that you set on like a weekly basis and then come back and reevaluate and say like, oh, I actually like crushed that.
Yeah.
I did really well. So now not only are you getting positive reinforcement from it and feeling good about it, which you should, but you're also now able to say like, okay, that feels like a nice consistent habit. Let me tack on to that now.
Sure.
Let me focus on something better for next week versus you set that big goal. I'm going to start drinking a gallon of water a day. That's not going to be consistent because you're probably not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But now not only are we not having consistent habits, but now we're negative reinforcing.
Yeah.
It's
discouraging.
Yes.
When you can't do it.
And then you end up just giving up and not doing it.
Yep. That's a good point. So figuring out goals that are doable and that won't potentially discourage you from even doing it.
Yeah.
Is good. Yeah.
Yep. So which I would say for kind of like the follow-up question of like, okay, but how do I figure out what is realistic for me? I would always err on the side of like start smaller. And if it feels like it's super easy and you're doing it 7 days a week, that should be like I needed to push a little bit more.
Yep.
But it's better to do that than the opposite.
Get the wheels turning. Yeah. Get some momentum.
Yep.
Maybe have a big picture you're looking and working towards, but
it just helps with self-awareness too.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
This one we talked a little bit about already, but just for detrimental habits, just ignoring your body, not listening to your body.
Yeah. You're just shutting signals down all day long. Yeah. Not ideal. The more connected we can get to our bodies externally, internally, all of the ways, the better we're off for everything.
Totally. Next one you had mentioned was following a plan that wasn't made for you specifically.
Yeah, the cookie cutter.
Yeah.
That's not a fun one. From the nutrition world, the fitness world, the psychological world, like you're not going to go get Dr. Google advice about your stress management and think that it applies to, you could, but it's not going to be the most helpful.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, oh, my friend is doing this. I'm going to just follow what they're doing.
Sure.
You're not them. You could get some results, I'm sure, but it's best to follow a plan for you, to work with someone who knows your background, your goals, to kind of give you that nice solid plan. Just like you and your work, like you're not someone shouldn't just go find like a PT workout to follow for their ankle. Oh,
I tore my ACL. Let me just download a PDF.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, solid.
This will fix it.
Yep. Yeah. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Especially with nutrition too, the amount of like, oh my God, I didn't throw up, but I could have thrown up the other day learning
if I wanted to.
learning that ChatGPT can generate meal plans.
Oh, yikes.
I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why internet? Why? It can be so helpful, but so not helpful too. Like ChatGPT
So it's
doesn't know you.
And ChatGPT is only using the information that's on the internet.
And that you give it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's like and we
Double.
know how much information's out there on the internet and how much is good, bad, and just not applicable to what you have going on. So
Yeah. Yeah. Just
let's just mix it all together and spit something out.
like if invest in your goals in yourself, and you will not have to spin the wheel for as long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Work on finding something that's for you specifically.
That's good.
Please.
Next one, I think kind of relates is using the quick fix methods versus thinking of long-term goals.
Yeah, I posted a reel the other day that was on it was a clip from the Today Show, and they were talking about like the best diets of 2024.
Okay.
And the woman was on from, I forget the organization, but one of like the best US news competition thingies.
Okay.
And she was like, if you want to, they were talking about the keto diet, and she was like,
Sure.
if you want to lose a bunch of weight before an event that's coming up, like the keto diet is the best route for that.
Okay.
It's like lose weight fast, but it's
Just cut out all carbs.
it's like, oh my God, like if that's not the epitome of like trying to find a quick fix.
Right.
Then I don't know what is. But yeah, like the quick fix diets, the quick fix supplements, the metabolism burners, the whatever, whatever. It's sure, it could be a quick fix, but one, you're not addressing the root cause of anything. Mm-hmm. Two, you're not, again, following something that's for you specifically and your goals specifically. Mm-hmm. And you're way more likely to have like rebound effects afterwards, because that's why it's a reason why it's called a quick fix. Like what happens after that's over.
Right. Yeah.
If you haven't addressed your behavioral change, your mindset, anything else.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be successful long term. If anything, especially like diet quick fixes are shown to, one, not be successful, but two, you rebound not just back to your starting weight. A lot of people actually gain more weight back.
Yeah. So your quick fix has now been detrimental.
Yeah.
You've been better off not doing it at all.
Yep.
Yep.
You would have just been better off drinking water and eating breakfast.
Yeah. Last detrimental habit we got is eating or exercising out of shame or guilt.
Yeah. That's a deep one.
It's common too.
Yes, especially in the athlete world, the former athlete world, because exercise was used as punishment for a lot of us. So exercising out of shame or guilt, that like, even what you had said earlier, I think maybe before we started recording, that like if you were stressed, like you go to work out.
Yeah.
Like backing up a step and saying like, okay, but why am I stressed?
Right.
That's finding the root causes of these things, not allowing guilt or shame in for food, for exercise, for body image, for any of those things, which again is very deep and a very complicated subject to talk about. But something that I learned a long time ago that was really helpful was that those energetically are really not helpful for us in the health world. If you're living in feelings of guilt or shame, it's been actually scientifically proven that state that our bodies would be stuck in causes metabolic disease, causes cancer, causes Alzheimer's.
Wow. Being
in those states for anything, even if it's subconsciously, like unaddressed traumas and stuff that are generating that state for your body energetically, it's obviously we don't want those things.
Yeah.
So just being aware of why, like take a second and just ask why.
Yeah.
Like if you had a super stressful day, the kids are driving you crazy, you're done for the day, they're to bed, you grab your glass of wine and you're going to like grab the hidden chocolate from the bottom shelf, like one, address why it's hidden in the first place, but probably from yourself, which is again, not a good thing. But if that's like, if it's a coping mechanism, if it's a tool that you're using against yourself, and then you do feel guilty or shameful afterwards, we got to do work on addressing that. Yeah.
It's so intertwined.
Yeah. Absolutely is.
So this is another good transition. So as far as myths, so I think we actually did mention this a little bit last time, but as the nutrition myths out there, there's a million of them. But some of the big ones that we have touched upon was avoiding certain foods. And you had a good answer for this one.
Yes.
It's a simple, quick, good answer.
Yeah, quick, right to the face.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, when asked about foods that we should be avoiding, there's 3. So foods that we're allergic to, foods that have gone bad or that have mold on them, and foods that we don't enjoy eating.
Yes, easy, simple. So none of this like, oh yeah, don't eat carbs, don't eat tomatoes because Tom Brady said they're bad.
Oh my God! Yeah. You can't eat eat fruit because they're too high in sugar.
Nightshades, fruit.
Yeah.
Yep. I did actually. Something happened to me that qualified for your rules. I cooked a bunch of ground beef and I left it out overnight. And I'm like, you know what? I think there's a 4-hour rule at room temperature, so I threw it out. I'm like, I know a lot of people have had norovirus recently. Like, I don't want any stomach bug, anything like that.
Yep.
Like,
be safe.
So I did. I was upset. I don't like waste, so I threw it out. But I followed your rules.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, but that's good. So it's like it's flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
Here's another good myth that you hear a lot: eating at night.
Yeah, like having to stop at a certain time.
Yeah.
Which got big during like the intermittent fasting fad, which is still kind of a thing. But like you have to cut off eating at a certain time, or if you didn't get it in that time, then you just can't eat it at all. Like that's just crazy to me. Like we're gonna skip dinner because you started eating at 6:01 instead of 6.
Sure.
But yeah, the eating at night, like the closer to bedtime stuff. It's not that our metabolisms like just stop working. Past a certain time, when it gets closer to bedtime, they do slow down a little bit, which is what they're supposed to do.
Sure.
But the whole thing about like food just sitting in your stomach and being stored as fat all night long is just not true.
There's no science to that.
No, your body's still going to work through it in the way that it's supposed to. I will say, though, what we're having, if it is close to bedtime, just being able to identify that it might take you longer to fall asleep.
Okay.
Because of that. Like, especially if it's something that, like even I'll use me as an example. Last night, I was still really hungry after dinner. And we were going into our room, kind of winding down for the night. It was like, embarrassingly, it was like 8:30. But
no, that's good.
we're sleep priority people.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I could ignore and I could just force to go to bed.
Yeah.
But I've learned to not do that. So I was like, okay, then I'm going to have something. So I did like a yogurt bowl with cut up strawberries and
so
like
good.
some dark chocolate syrup.
Nice.
And it was helpful. It was satisfying. It was nourishing. But I had to also recognize, like, okay, there's some sugar from the syrup, There's some dairy sugar, right, lactose from yogurt. There's fruit sugar in the form of fructose. So I was like, okay, I know that I have to give myself a little bit of a buffer of falling asleep.
Sure.
So doing something like some breathing exercises, maybe you throw on a quick meditation, maybe you're doing some like before bed stretches to help your body calm down.
Some Ling Ling tea.
Some Ling Ling, yeah. Yep, some Ling Ling, yes. But like being aware of that and not just being like, okay, I had a snack, I have to like hit the hay and like fall asleep immediately because it's probably not going to happen. But yeah, the myth around like stuff being stuck in your body overnight and you're not digesting it is just...
It's a myth.
Silly. That's just silly. It is a myth.
Good. I like that. And then last topic that I want to get into, and then I'll let you get out of here, is the diet fads. So
there's so many of them.
There's quite a few, and we touched upon the keto a little bit already. But one of the first ones you had mentioned was the 75 hard, which is I feel like not as popular in the past few months than it was when it first came out, but you still hear about it from time to time.
Yeah, I definitely saw at least like on my Instagram, a lot of people were still kind of posting about it.
Yeah.
At the new year. It's tough, and I respect everybody's place in industries.
Yes.
And I don't want to like badmouth anyone, but the premise was built off of fear and shame.
Yeah.
And like if you fail, you have to start over.
Sure.
And that's not a good mindset to stay in or reinforce by any means, especially if you're a former athlete. Like now we're just reinforcing the poor habits that we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. It's not sustainable. It's again talking about like setting realistic goals. A lot of those goals that are part of 75 hard are not realistic for most people.
Sure.
So I actually, this year, I've been wanting to actually do it for a couple of years now since I started the business. I actually opened a challenge, like a Facebook group challenge that I called 75 Plush.
Love it.
So we're actually finishing the 15th, so like next week.
Nice.
So, but there was no starting over. It was much more. It was 4 habits, like balance plates.
Yep.
Focusing on sleep, getting in movement that you enjoy once a day, and not forcing twice a day. And one of them has to be outside in the winter. And we did some like body acceptance, affirmation, self-care type stuff too.
Sure.
So more sustainable habits, not fear or guilt based, not having to start over.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not cool.
No, that's
It's not helpful.
I initially, when that came out, it intrigued me. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I think everybody's kind of like somewhat intrigued to like challenges.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to challenge
I gotta
myself.
push. I'm gonna push myself to do this. Yeah.
And I liked, me personally, I liked a lot of the aspects of it, but there's a few things that I'm looking at. I'm like, this is gonna be really, really hard for me to do. Well, 75 hard, but like hard for me to complete for 75 days. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly enough, like one of the things was the no alcohol, because 75 days is what is it? It's close to, is it 3 months?
It's like 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I was looking at like the time of year and like, okay, like this is my friend's birthday this weekend. I get this stuff, and it's like I could abstain if I wanted to, but I'm like, oh, I don't really
want to.
I don't really. Not that I'm like alcoholic. I'm like, oh, I have to drink, but I'm like, I want to enjoy like a beer with my friends.
Yeah,
like,
literally
at
enjoy
this
your
event,
life. Yeah,
not just because of this challenge. I'm like, so if that was for me anyway, that was the one reason I'm like, I ended up going down and trying it.
Yeah.
But even the other stuff I think is tough, unnecessarily tough for most people. I mean, and like you said, like I don't want to bash anybody in the industry, because I think, you know, I know people that have done it and they enjoyed it and they got a lot out of it, but I think for a lot of people it's potentially bad, counterproductive, not the best habits to be doing. Yeah.
No, yeah, and even like I'm sure if you went back and talked to those people that enjoyed it and asked them like, were you still doing those things in July?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said too, like it's kind of intriguing, especially for athletes, because it's like, ooh, like we love the challenge.
Totally.
We love something to be like, ooh, that's going to be hard. I'm going to do it, right? The discipline part of it. But you can translate that to something else.
Right.
Like you can still push
Use
yourself.
Energy.
Make your own tracker, and that's we had trackers in the Facebook group that I have like up on my fridge.
Yeah.
Like keep yourself accountable, push yourself to do things that maybe feel uncomfortable without the extremes.
Yeah.
Without the things that you can't see yourself doing. If you can ask yourself if those are things you're going to be doing in the next year, and the answer is no, then like, why?
Right.
Why do it? Unless it's for something like specific. Like if you're training for a competition, right? You're going to push yourself. You're going to push levels. You're going to push the intensity because there's a purpose.
Yeah.
But that's not something you're going to sustainably do forever.
Yeah.
Right? There's a different purpose there.
Totally. I like that. The purpose behind it's important. And also, like we talked earlier about, avoiding things that look more like quick fix type things is important too.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. As far as, other fads we kind of touched upon, the last piece, which we touched upon a little bit already, was just kind of a lot of the trends working with former athletes, the weight change stuff, the purpose, self-recognition. And was there anything else you wanted to touch upon that, or do you think we kind of covered that pretty well?
I think the only thing that we didn't really grab before was that self-recognition. So I'll, again, use me as an example just from my own personal experience. Being a team sport, there's years and years and years of pattern ingrained in our mindsets of getting praise or recognition from teammates, from coaches, from fans, family, friends, whoever comes to like watch and support. So when those are now no longer things, it was really hard for me for a long time to actually self-recognize and to like praise myself for doing things that seemed like so little and so insignificant.
Sure.
That it's something I have to teach my clients to do a lot too, or like I have to do for them for the first beginning little period, because they're just so not used to doing it, right? We're so hard on ourselves. We're so like, but like I could have done X, or I could have done this better, or but in the past I did, like the comparisonitis piece.
Right.
it's that self-recognition. So we have to, one of the most helpful things that I still do to this day, I have a little mason jar on my desk that has a sticky note on it that says, be your own teammate.
Nice.
So I put in I have like little pieces of ripped up paper that I put in like little small wins every single day of like, I did my morning routine this morning, and I haven't been doing it for a couple days or something, where like I wasn't harsh on my body when I woke up and looked in the mirror this morning.
Yeah.
Things that maybe you wouldn't acknowledge consciously, but you can like capture in these little pieces of paper,
Yeah.
put them in your mason jar. You see it kind of fill up throughout the week.
Yeah.
And then what I've loved doing is not reading them. So you like put them somewhere separate. Maybe you have like a drawer or something in your office that you put them in, and then you let like a month go by. Right, you let your memory fade. You let the loop kind of fade out a little bit, and then you go back and read them.
That's cool.
And then it's like, like I didn't even remember that. Like I did that, or I don't even remember like that was important to me, but it was important enough that I remembered to write it down.
That's cool.
And you come back, and it's like now you're literally self-recognizing in a pattern that you wouldn't have done otherwise.
That's really cool.
It's so helpful. It's so cool to see too. Like when I have a nice full mason jar, I'm like, oh yeah, like,
I'm gonna stash this away. We'll come back to this in a month or two.
Yep,
that's great.
It's so helpful.
I've never heard anybody doing that. That's creative, and
it's fun.
I like it.
It's really fun.
That's cool.
And it was uncomfortable at first because you're like, again, being hard on ourselves. You're like, I don't feel like I did anything worth writing down today.
Yeah,
but it's again, it takes you moments to pause and to self-reflect and to be like, oh, you know what, like someone cut me off on the highway and I didn't flip them the bird, or like I didn't yell at like little things that again seem insignificant, but in the long run, like maybe you've been working on stress management, like that's a piece.
Sure.
Right? But if you don't self-recognize it and you don't actually give yourself like props for it, you're not going to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's true too.
Your body's not going to remember it. It's not going to reinforce the behavior at all.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's almost like a different form of journaling in a way. Yeah. You know, by writing something down, putting it in, and then I mean a lot of journal entries I feel like aren't read at a later date, but that one can be. Capturing those wins and allowing that momentum to keep spinning, which is cool. Yeah,
and I feel like it's a little bit more of a less barrier habit, I guess, than journaling. Yeah, I feel like sometimes like there's stigmas around journaling, like especially I'm sure is like the men in the situation, like I'm not journaling, like that's stupid. That's silly, but like having to write something on a piece of paper and like throwing it in a mason jar. Yeah.
And is it just a small piece of paper you just crumple up a little bit, or?
Yeah, I just took like a printer paper and like cut strips.
Cut it up, yeah.
And then you write it and then I just fold it in half.
Gotcha.
And then just like toss it in, so you can't read through.
Yes. I'm just picturing myself like crumpling up a piece of paper and putting it.
Yeah,
that's better.
You don't have to crumple them because you do.
Less aggressive.
You do want to read them later on.
I can't even read this one.
Matt's over here like sharpieing.
Yeah. Just putting it in a shredder.
Yep. I did it.
Yeah. Cool. That's so all right. Funny. Well, I was gonna leave you with the billboard question, but I think you may have answered it with that. Be your own teammate. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We have to. Yeah. We have to be our own teammates. Yeah, absolutely. We only have us at the end of the day. Yeah. As somber as it sounds sometimes, but like we can't rely on anybody else. Yeah. To do things for us or to think things for us. Yeah. Or to recognize for us. We have to do it ourselves. And that's what feels the best. Like when you get used to doing it, it's like, I have a full mason jar. I got it. That's
where the wins are.
Yep.
Love it. Cool. All right, so we'll wrap up with that. We did a lengthy, really good episode, packed full of a lot of two good episodes, packed with a ton of good information. So I think people will really enjoy this.
I hope so.
Come out really nice. Hopefully, I do a good job editing them, which is I think I will. So cool. Rudy Strength, you're signing off. Thank you so much for being on.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thank you. Bye.